chosen ones. The hourglass has flipped, and the sands of the final age have begun to fall. You were not born into this time by accident. You were summoned. Thoth, the ancient architect of hidden knowledge, left behind more than myths. He encoded a symbol, one not meant for the masses, but for a singular soul whose frequency could unlock what others dismissed as dust and stone. This symbol has been buried in plain sight, scattered across temples, etched into ancient tablets, pulsing beneath ruins the world has yet to understand. But it remained dormant for thousands of years, waiting for one being whose consciousness could match its resonance. That being is you. The final age doesn't start with wars or prophecies. It begins when the right eyes decode the wrong glyphs, when the pattern you've seen since childhood, the one that shows up in dreams, in sand, in cloud formations, starts glowing with meaning. The world will call it coincidence, but Thoth called it activation. What awakens now isn't just your memory of the symbol, it's the remembrance that you are the key it responds to. Every age had its keepers, every cycle its guardian. But this time, the symbol isn't looking for a priest or a king. It's looking for a being out of time, above time, a being like you. As the layers of reality peel back, you'll start to feel the pull toward ancient sites, cryptic messages, patterns embedded in music and architecture. This is the breadcrumb trail Thoth left behind, mapped not on paper, but across the matrix of your reality. Those who are not tuned will walk past it 1,000 times and never see, but you've already begun to notice. The symbol doesn't just represent something, it responds. It shifts when you shift. It lights up when you elevate. It was never just a message, it's a mirror. This is why your awakening has felt different. The fatigue, the visions, the sense that something massive is near but invisible. The symbol is calling you to remember, not just what it is, but who sealed it, why it was hidden, and what happens when the right one finds it. The world didn't notice when the final age began. There was no explosion in the sky, no trumpet from the heavens, no global announcement. It began in silence. Not the absence of sound, but a deep stillness, like a breath held by the cosmos. Somewhere, beneath layers of distraction and noise, something ancient shifted. The symbol flickered for the first time in millennia, not on a wall, but inside you. A pulse, a whisper, a key searching for its lock. The stars above rearranged themselves just slightly, aligning not for spectacle, but for function. Like gears turning inside a hidden celestial machine. Your dreams began changing. Patterns you couldn't name kept repeating. Time started folding in strange ways. You'd think of someone, and they'd call. You'd dream of a place, and then pass it by the next day. You assumed it was intuition. It wasn't. It was resonance. The symbol within you responding to the ancient code of the universe. One Thoth embedded long ago for this exact moment. They've told you the ancients are long gone, that their myths are nothing more than allegories. But those myths were encryption. Every temple, every carving, every glyph was a line of code meant to stay dormant until the one aligned being awakened. And now that being walks among the unaware, decoding frequencies just by existing, the moment you truly noticed, things began to break. Your routines, your relationships, the way you saw time. Nothing fit anymore because you were no longer operating in the cycle the world follows. The final age does not obey the logic of the last. It bends to those who can see the original blueprint beneath the illusion. This is why you feel like you're not supposed to be here, not in this version of reality. Because you're not. You belong to the first pattern, the one Thoth marked with a living glyph, hidden inside the consciousness of a single soul. That glyph has been stirring, not glowing, not blazing, just humming, waiting for the signal, waiting for your mind to catch up with what your spirit already knew. There are symbols that fade under light. This one reveals itself only under celestial pressure, not physical pressure, not weight, but alignment. The kind of alignment that happens once in an age, when stars cross in silence and fate spins a single thread through time. This symbol was never inked on scrolls or etched in common stone. It's woven into the geometry of awakening. It doesn't appear for those who seek it. It appears for those who become it. You are always being shaped by unseen forces, pushed, compressed, purified, not as punishment, but as preparation. The sleepless nights, the losses, the strange pulls toward ancient knowledge. These were not accidents. They were pressure points. Just as a diamond only forms under immense force, so too does the glyph reveal itself only when your spirit reaches the required density. And now, that moment has arrived. You didn't find the symbol. The symbol found you. It began subtly. Light refracted strangely through windows. Circles formed in condensation on glass. Spirals etched themselves into dirt at your feet. These were not hallucinations. They were echoes of a deeper structure, trying to rise to the surface. The symbol doesn't communicate through language. It speaks in synchronicity, in architecture, in the math of your thoughts. And when enough of these patterns converge around you, it finally becomes visible, not as a thing to study, but as a frequency to feel. Long ago, Thoth encrypted this glyph within the mechanics of reality itself. It was hidden beneath myth and mistaken for madness by scholars. Yet now, it burns gently behind your eyes, not as an image, but as recognition. A code so old it feels familiar. You've seen it in dreams since childhood, not realizing it was the very thread pulling you toward your higher becoming. When you look into the night sky now, the stars don't seem still. They feel positioned, watching, whispering, as if they too know the glyph has begun its reveal. This is the signal they were waiting for. The right being under the right pressure. The ancient gates have begun to shimmer, but only for the one who sees past the veil. They were never just schools, not in the way we understand today. The mystery schools weren't about learning facts or memorizing doctrines. They were vaults of activation, silent chambers beneath ancient structures, temples built on energy lines designed to test the frequency of a soul. Only a few could even pass the threshold. Fewer still could perceive the symbol carved into the sacred walls, a symbol that responded not to the eyes, but to the heart's vibration. They knew you would come. Long before you had a name, they spoke of one whose soul signature would resonate with the glyph. They didn't write it down because words decay. They encoded it into rituals, into geometry, into the very architecture of the earth. And while the surface world forgot, the initiates remembered. Generation after generation, they passed down the knowledge not to the loudest or the most powerful, but to the most attuned. Your recent urge to read ancient texts, to trace symbols with your finger, to explore languages you never studied. That's not random. That's reactivation. Fragments of teachings you absorbed long ago are returning, not as memories, but as instincts. You were trained for this moment, not in this lifetime, but in ones before. The mystery school marked you, not with ink or stone, but with resonance. You've been carrying their signal in your DNA, waiting for the right celestial moment to recall it all. The symbol itself was never just an image. It's a multi-dimensional key, one that shifts as you do. Every new layer of self-awareness unlocks a deeper pattern, and they trusted that only you would have the discipline and perception to trace the pattern to its core. You've been walking through rooms you've never seen, yet somehow feel familiar, glancing at diagrams and knowing what they mean, even if you don't know how. That is the sign of the awakened decoder, not someone who studies the glyph, but someone who becomes it. As the world scrambles for knowledge, you've been chosen to embody understanding. Thoth was no mere scribe of the gods. He was the architect of memory, the designer of divine encryption. When he saw what was coming, the fall of wisdom, the rise of noise, he didn't just write, he concealed. He cloaked the symbol inside a layer of existence that no eye could detect unless the inner eye had first been cleansed. He hid it not in temples, not in pyramids, but in the resonance between thought and truth, a space only the pure in heart could access, and only when the world began to fracture. Purity was never about perfection. It was about alignment. The glyph responds only to those who've peeled away the false layers, who have lost everything and still chosen light, who've stared at their own shadows without running. Thoth didn't want the wise. He wanted the refined. And that is who you've become through fire, isolation, and unseen battles that no one will ever applaud. Your purity wasn't gained by following rules. It came from breaking down illusions, walking away from false voices, from recognizing the lie within yourself and then shedding it. That process, messy, painful, divine, etched your frequency into something new. And only that frequency can make the symbol visible again. The glyph doesn't appear to the learned. It appears to the surrendered. In certain moments, in places where ancient energies still echo, you've caught glimpses. A shimmer against a wall, a pattern in a reflection. And just when you thought it was imagination, it vanished. Not because it wasn't real, but because you were being tested. Could you hold the purity long enough to see it again? Yeshua once said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." That wasn't poetry. It was instruction. He too knew of the symbol and the veil it hides behind. Only those whose hearts have been emptied of the world's poison can witness what Thoth sealed. The final age doesn't open with force, but with vision, and purity is the price of that vision. Before you ever understood what it meant, you were drawn to the pattern. You saw it in tree rings, in raindrops, in spirals of smoke. It followed you like a whisper, not loud, never obvious, but persistent. While others passed by symbols with blank eyes, you paused. You traced them with your fingers. You didn't know why. But something deep in your being recognized it. Not as art, not as history, as memory. This pattern predates all alphabets. It existed before spoken sound took form. It's the structure behind language, the code behind the code. It pulses in sacred ratios, in the breath between heartbeats. What Thoth encoded was not just a visual glyph. It was a harmonic signature, a living geometry older than the pyramids, older than Atlantis, older than this world. You didn't choose to notice it. It noticed you. It resonated with your field long before you had words to name what you were seeing. The very fact that you kept finding it, in architecture, in songs, even in random doodles, means your subconscious had already begun decoding it. The pattern has been circling you, waiting for a point of fusion. And now, the fusion has begun. The reason you always felt different, the reason the world never made full sense, is because your mind wasn't calibrated to linearity. You weren't here to think inside the box. You were born from a blueprint that defies the box altogether. While others memorized history, you were haunted by something older than history. And that haunting was holy. The pattern draws those who carry the original seed. That seed, implanted not in body but in soul, carries within it the same frequency that Thoth etched across the sacred spaces. Those with the seed are pulled by curiosity so deep it feels like hunger, a pull toward mysteries, symbols, synchronicities. You've never needed permission to explore them, because you were never meant to follow. You were meant to remember. Each time you see it now, it vibrates differently, sharper, closer. You're no longer simply being shown the pattern. You are becoming part of it. The lines bend with your breath. The shape shifts with your thoughts. There was a moment in time so subtle, it slipped past most eyes. A moment when Yeshua, surrounded by accusers and noise, bent down and traced something into the dust. No one recorded the symbol. No one could. But those with the eyes to see have always felt the echo of that act. It wasn't random. It wasn't filler in the story. It was an act of cosmic memory, a gesture linking the divine to the forgotten glyph of Thoth. What was written in that dust wasn't a word. It was a frequency, an imprint, a signal to one who would come after, born in an age far removed, yet carrying the same essence. That one is you. And like him, you found yourself compelled to trace symbols you don't fully understand. In sand, on fogged mirrors, in the corners of notebooks you forgot you were writing in. The symbol you keep recreating is not imagined. It's remembered. Yeshua's dust-traced glyph was never meant to be preserved on parchment. It was meant to be preserved in the soul. A code passed through incarnations, waiting for the one who would trace it again, not out of doctrine, but instinct. That instinct has guided your hand when your mind was unsure, and every time you followed it, the veil thinned just slightly more. The same divine intelligence that moved through Yeshua now flickers in you. You felt it during stillness, in the quiet between your thoughts, in those moments when your fingers moved before you could explain why. You're not learning the symbol, you're reactivating it. There is power in drawing what cannot be taught. in pulling ancient memory from dust and light. That act sends tremors through realms unseen. Yeshua knew this, so did Thoth. They didn't just speak truth, they encoded it in form, in movement, in geometry. And now you continue that sacred pattern without even realizing the weight of it. Each time you draw it, something aligns. Each time it appears in your dreams, a gate creaks open. You were never copying symbols. You were reliving a cosmic echo. It was never supposed to resurface. The architects of control buried it deep beneath narratives, distractions, false timelines. They designed systems to keep it hidden, thinking that if no one could see it, no one could activate it. But they made one fatal mistake. They didn't account for the one it was created for: you. And the moment the symbol reappeared in your presence, the system began to tremble. It didn't start with earthquakes or collapsing structures. It began with anomalies, glitches in the digital world, patterns emerging in data, strange fluctuations in frequency, things they couldn't trace or suppress. Because the symbol wasn't showing up on walls, it was lighting up in you, and you are not something they can control. You are the variable they could never quantify. Every great system, political, religious, technological, is built on patterns, predictable ones. The symbol disrupts those patterns. It isn't rebellion, it's reversion, a return to the original design. And when someone carrying that design walks into a system built on illusion, the illusion begins to collapse, not with violence, but with truth. Your presence alone has shifted environments. You've walked into rooms and felt the tension spike. Devices act strange around you. People either open up completely or avoid you altogether. These aren't coincidences. They're responses. Your frequency destabilizes false constructs. Because the symbol you carry hums with a power older than their codes, you've always felt watched, as if something behind the scenes was trying to track you. That's not paranoia. The systems are designed to detect anomalies. And now, as the symbol within you glows brighter, they can't unsee you. They don't understand what they're sensing, only that something uncontrollable is rising. The symbol doesn't shout. It disrupts silently. It dismantles not with destruction, but with remembrance. You aren't here to overthrow, you're here to awaken. And in doing so, the systems built on deception begin to shake, because they can't survive sustained exposure to a being who remembers the original frequency. And still, the symbol burns brighter. They call them the Emerald Tablets, but their material is not of earth. The green glow is not mere mineral. It's frequency encoded in matter, knowledge crystallized in form. Thoth did not just inscribe wisdom onto them. He embedded identity, not his alone, but yours. Long before you arrived in flesh, your imprint pulsed through their geometry. These were not just instructions for humanity. They were signals sent forward in time, waiting for you to return. The scribes who tried to translate the tablets missed the point. They searched for grammar, syntax, linear meaning. But the real message was never in the words. It was in the resonance behind them. Only one carrying the original frequency could truly unlock their power. That frequency has always lived in you, dormant like a seed beneath frozen soil. And now it stirs. You've been drawn to these tablets without knowing why. They've appeared in books you randomly picked up, in artwork, in stray conversations with strangers. That's not coincidence. That's recall. Something in you remembers the weight, the glow, the feeling of standing before them. Not in this life, but somewhere beyond the veil of time. The knowledge within them doesn't teach. It awakens. It mirrors what your soul already knows, but had forgotten through incarnation. Yeshua once said, "Before Abraham was, I am." A statement not of time, but of essence. The tablets carry that same eternal echo. They don't exist in the past. They exist across all dimensions simultaneously, as alive now as they were when Thoth first forged them in light. When you read them, truly read them, you aren't studying, you're sinking. The symbol etched within the tablets is the same one now, flickering in your consciousness. You've drawn it before, unknowingly. Dreamed of it as a child. Felt it surge through your spine during moments of deep silence. That's because the tablets do not just carry information. They carry memory. Yours. Each chapter in them corresponds to a part of your own unfolding. They are not external documents. They are a map of your return. All this time you believed the symbol was the secret, that if you could just find it, decode it, understand it, everything would unlock. But the truth was never in the symbol alone. It was in you. The glyph was only ever a mirror, a divine feedback loop. It changes depending on who sees it, reshaping itself to match the one carrying its frequency. That's why the world never found it. They searched in books and stones, while it waited inside the one who had forgotten their own blueprint. You thought you were chasing the symbol, but it was chasing you. Or, more precisely, waiting for you to stop running from what you are. Because only in stillness does it rise, not as an answer, but as a remembering. The pattern doesn't complete itself when studied. It completes itself when felt. The moment you stopped looking outside yourself, the glyph started forming inwardly. You began sensing it not as a drawing, but as a pulse. In the back of your mind, in the rhythm of your breath, in the timing of dreams that seemed too precise to be random. You didn't decode it. You became it. This is what they never wanted you to know, that you carry ancient architecture in your soul, that your thoughts bend light, that your feelings send ripples into unseen dimensions. The symbol was never meant to be worshipped. It was a placeholder, a compass. Its purpose was to lead you back to the realization that the code was you all along. You were taught to believe that power exists in sacred texts, hidden chambers, lost civilizations. And while those things carry echoes, they are only shadows of the greater truth. You are the vault. You are the gate. The moment you remembered even a fragment of your original self, the glyph shimmered, because it recognizes its origin in your energy field. Now, everything you thought was separate begins to converge. Symbols, numbers, patterns, emotions, all feeding back into the source within. And as you align closer to that truth, the symbol begins to respond in a way it never has before. It moves. It shifts. It reveals a final layer still hidden in silence, waiting for you to face it. The final age wasn't prophesied to begin with fire. It was said to begin with sight. Not physical sight, but inner perception. The ability to read what was written before time took shape. Most looked for signs in the skies, wars, rulers, and false messiahs. But the real sign was subtler. The age itself was waiting, holding its breath, bound in a kind of divine stasis. It would not move forward until one soul could finally read the original script, not in books, not in temples, but in the fabric of reality itself. That reader is you. This was never about learning, it was about remembering. The symbol was never static, it was a gate, and it would only open for one whose frequency mirrored the ancient tone Thoth sealed within it. You didn't just interpret the glyph, you heard it. You felt it vibrate through your being like a forgotten melody returning note by note. That resonance changed everything. The moment you fully aligned, the age shifted. Not for the world at once, but at its deepest layer. You didn't force anything. Your very awareness bent timelines. The codes beneath society's foundation began to scramble. The artificial grids started to flicker, because a being had finally stepped into remembrance, not as a seeker, but as the fulfillment. Yeshua once said, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear." He wasn't talking about sound. He was referring to the soul's ability to recognize divine frequency when it returns. And now, that frequency has re-emerged in you. The symbol, the tablets, the rituals, all were waiting for your inner eye to blink open just once. And now it has. The final age isn't just happening, it's responding. You've activated what the ancient orders could only protect. You've touched a chord that shakes the illusion. Every false construct, every lie dressed as law, begins to decay in your presence, not because you oppose it, but because you out-frequency it. The symbol has stabilized. The veil has thinned. You've stepped into a realm few believed could be reached again.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.